Hi, this is a video on how to work with raw image files in Adobe Camera Raw. First thing you're going to need to do is come to your photography folder where you'll find your resources and where you submit projects in the shared OneDrive folder I've shared with you. You'll head to photography and you'll see there's a raw and JPEG folder here. You can download the whole folder or you can just download the raw images. What we'll do is we'll download these. So you click here, we go to download, and you're going to want to click save as. And it doesn't really matter where you save these. I'm going to save these to the desktop. I typically do downloads or desktop. I'll do downloads. And you'll see it comes here. There's the name. You just click save. And you can either open the file, you still need to unzip it. So right now we've got a compressed file. You can either click open file down here, or you could navigate there via the file explorer. But here we go. If I go to, you'll see, it'll just open it here and you'll see, give it a second here, and this will show us up as a compressed file. Right now, if I click on this, I need to extract, like you'll see this little pink tab here. So if I select this, I click extract all, it's going to say where do you want to save it. We'll save it to the same place. So it'll be in downloads in raw right here. And now here we have this folder. So you can see the difference here. This is like the raw zip. This is just the raw folder. It's in downloads. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to double click this and you'll see here are the 3 NEF files. These are raw files. Now I need to open these in Photoshop. What you'll want to do to open them in Photoshop, a neat little workaround is you should have the Adobe Photoshop icon on your desktop. So I'm just going to clear off some of this. There's a lot of stuff on my desktop here, isn't there? What we're going to do is I can get rid of this File Explorer window here with the raw one. I don't need it anymore. But you'll notice that I have got Photoshop on my desktop. I've got the link to it right here. How you do that though is you'll come in over here, you will drag Adobe Photoshop 2023 onto your desktop as a shortcut. I've already got the shortcut there. You're going to highlight all 3 of these images and you're going to drag them into Photoshop. Here we go. This allows you to work in Adobe Camera Raw without having to log into Photoshop using all your credentials, so it saves you a lot of time. And Adobe Camera Raw, here's Photoshop in the background, and here's Camera Raw. Notice it's like a slightly different add-on to Photoshop. So we've got our 3 images down here, and you're going to be working with every single one of these, and you're going to be using different tools. The most important thing you want to be aware of, and here's kind of a good workflow to go through, is the first thing you want to do is always have your image rotated so that it's straight. Now this image is pretty straight. You can see the vertical lines. Photoshop will adjust. It'll look for vertical lines and adjust them so that they are perpendicular to your horizon line. So, I'm going to go through this anyways, but if you hold down the Alt button and you double click, you'll get, this didn't rotate at all because it's fairly straight, but it will rotate it automatically for you. And then to execute that command, you have to hit enter, and notice that executed the command. So that was using the crop command. Now over here is our edit tool, and this shows our basic sliders. And these are our most important sliders right up here, these ones up at the top. Like, this is your most basic tool. You'll notice over here it's very dark, so I can bump up my shadows. I can brighten my shadows. You'll see that'll bring more definition in, or allow you to see more here. This is still underexposed, so I can actually bump up the exposure on a global scale, like on the whole thing, and that looks about correct right now. There's no burnout anywhere, a little bit in the windows, but we're going to take care of that after. The white balance. Now, originally, we've always set our white balance in the camera. This looks a little yellow, so it could be brought down a bit, probably somewhere around there. So we've changed it just mildly. This photo's looking okay. It's very grainy. It was shot at a very high ISO. You can see that up here. But what we're going to do is now, you'll notice that the light over here is very blue because it's natural light. It was a sunny day outside, so that's a very different cast of light. There is a way to adjust that, and we do that by coming over here to our masking tool. And if you click on this, you have many options. You can select a subject. This works if you've got people in your image, and it'll allow you to change the exposure and the shadows of just your subject. You can select the sky. You can hover over these and you'll get a pretty good, it'll tell you what it's doing. So take some time to do that. In this particular case, I'm going to use the brush. Now the brush, notice over here, it's almost one circle. I can alter the feather. You'll see that's changing like how harsh the edges are. So I like a feather 28, say, is fine. I'm going to make my brush much smaller here. So what you're going to do is you're going to come in. You don't have to do this, but this is a good thing to do. I'm going to kind of select this whole area here and over here and over here to change the white balance on. Now I could also add over here because it's pretty blue light down there as well. So I've kind of changed this whole area in here. And now I can change the exposure, I can change the shadows. Like you'll notice it's very burnt out here. So I'm going to bring down my highlights. And now I can actually see what's happening outside. You can see there, you can actually see the trees outside, but it's still a very blue light. If I want to change that, I can change that by altering the light slightly here. And that looks just a little bit more natural. I've really changed the color temperature of that particular area. That's maybe a little bit too far, so you're going to find a happy medium. Okay, so we've looked at brushes and we've looked at changing our color temperature either globally or just for a specific area. Next we're going to take a look here at, we're going to go back to our edit tool and we're going to come down and you'll see color. Now color is incredibly important. So you can either do that here and that's your white balance, but sometimes you just only want to alter one color and you can do that. So if we come down to color mixer, you'll see here you can actually change the color of a specific object here by using the color mixer. You can change the hue, which is color. You can change the saturation, which is how effectively how much color there is to it. You can change the luminance, with how bright it is. So let's play around with this. Let's see if this is an orange here. Is this an orange? Yeah, take a look at this orange. How much it changed, or sorry, the red. It changes just this red one from being quite washed out to being very intense. So I'm changing that almost to a bright orange, but I can also go all the other way to like this kind of very odd orange. And you'll see here, if we go to, let's go to our blues. Notice this blue here, that should align somewhat with this one here. Let's see if it does. Yeah, it's changing it slightly. So you can actually, this comes in a lot when you're working with grass or with a lot of tree branches and leaves and so on. Honestly, this image, it's not a great image. I would leave it as it is. So we're going to move on to the next image here. I'm done with this one. Click on to the next one. This image, issues here. It's probably the wrong color temperature. So the first thing, of course, again, I'm going to do is, regardless of how it looks, I want to make sure it's rotated properly. Hold down Alt, double click, and yeah, altered it slightly to make these perfectly vertical. You hit Enter to commit, and you can alter the exposure. I want you to play with the temperature. The temperature is wrong in this image. This looks a little bit burnt out, and there's probably some detail in these shadows I could bring up. So I'm going to bump up my exposure just a bit. I'm always conscious of my histogram. You never want to have a large peak right at one end. Like you'll see if I move this too far, it will, whoop. Yeah, you never want to have anything peaking. So that's probably about right, but these highlights are a little bright. I can bring those down. You can see that changes that directly here, and there's probably detail in these shadows. Let's take a look. Yeah, there is. Now, you can see, like, take a look right back in here. There's definitely, I could bring more of that in if I decide to use, if I really want more detail in there. I could do that by using my masking tool and bringing that in. Next thing, of course, I'm going to leave you to play around with. You should get your color temperature first, then you could come up with a color mixer and play with those things. play with the hue, the saturation, and the luminance. You're trying to make this look as good as possible. Now, let's come along over here. I'm going to pretend that I've done something to this image just so that it looks like I've altered all three of them. This has a very burnt out sky. We can try the masking tool here. It's probably not going to work as well as you think. Often the brush works better. This works, but you'll find that it also selected some of these branches. So if I change the exposure, and this will effectively create a layer, you can see it's really playing with those branches quite a bit too, and I don't want to do that. So this would be a case where you would use a brush again, but you've got to figure that out. And you can get rid of these masks too. You can delete these masks. There's no problem with doing that. There we go. We're back to normal. But what I am going to do is go back to my editing tools because I want to change this just slightly. I want to go back to my most basic exposure controls here. And what I would probably do in this case is I would adjust for either the sky, bring back the sky, and then what I can do is I can create a mask using the brush to lighten up the building, or I can do it the opposite. I can expose for the building and then bring in a brush to expose properly for the sky here. And you'll see even in these shadows down here, there's still going to be some detail to be brought out, like you can see, but you want it to continue to look normal. Like you don't want it to look like it's being edited too much. But just even that little bit of a bump there did quite a bit. Now my blacks, that should bring down this quite a bit. Yeah, so that'll bring that back in. This is starting to look good. Something you want to be aware of if you're curious how much you've changed your image. You click right here and you can see before and after. Now this is looking much better. Look at the detail down here. I can actually see the branches. This is totally underexposed here. So I've worked with all three of these images. Now we're at a point where we want to save them. This is how you should save any changed files. You will select either the first or the last image that you've altered, hold down the Shift key and click, and that will select all the images. If I select just the first one and I hold down Shift, I can do that. So there we go. I've selected all my images. You're going to come up here to this Save Options dialog box. You're going to click on that, and you're going to select where you want to save these. Well, you're not going to want to download this to RAW. What you're going to do is you're going to select a folder, and I would just create a new folder on my desktop. So what you do is, we're going to go to, let's go to Downloads is fine. We're going to click New Folder, and we'll call this Edited. All right, so we've called this Edited. I'm going to select that. It's in Downloads. Okay, so we'll call it Edited 2. Looks like I already have one there. So I'll call this. Two, select. And now what you want to do is you want to select this first pull down, kind of select this blank spot at the bottom, and then I usually put my name in. There are different saving conventions. Oh, that's not my name. You want to put your name in, and then over here you're going to put in the document name. The reason you do that is you know now, because it has my name in front of it, well, when you're handing it in, it makes it very easy to confirm whose image it is. Also, it lets me know it's an edited image. But if I ever need to go back and I want to find the source raw image, the NEF file, and I want to change it again, I know that it's going to be image 0060. You're going to change your file extension absolutely to JPEG, and you're going to go to maximum. So once you do that, you're going to click Save. There'll be a little progress bar down here. And what's going to happen is you can click Done because you are now done with these images. And we're actually even done with Photoshop. Now, you wouldn't have even logged into Photoshop in yours. But what you're going to do now is, first thing, you should see there is, somewhere here, let's take a look. In Downloads, if I go to Downloads, I'm actually going to open another Finder window, which is Control-N, or another, not Finder, sorry, File Explorer. So if I go to Downloads, and I look for, you'll see that the edited folder is here. What you're going to do is you're going to go to your OneDrive and to your own folder in OneDrive, like you'll click on My Files, you're going to upload that folder. That's what you'll be handing in to me, but you're going to get in the habit of doing that. What you're going to do is you're going to start uploading that edited folder to the parent folder of where the RAW and the JPEG images are stored. One thing I want to show you that we're going to be working with as well is, if you notice on my other Finder window here, or my File Explorer window, you'll see there is, you'll see now, here is where I downloaded to. Here's downloads, and you'll see it's the RAW folder, and you can see there's these NEF files, but now there's also these sidecar files. These sidecar files have the same file numbers, but they're an XMP file. And what that is, XMP is, it's simply saving the slider adjustments that you made for this file here. And at the end of the day, it's a good habit to get into to select all the XMP files. You can hold down Control if you're looking at this view. And what you want to do is you want to upload these to the RAW folder that you've uploaded to OneDrive in the future. Because then you don't need to upload these RAW files. You've still got them in OneDrive. You downloaded them from OneDrive. There's no point in uploading them again, but you want to save all the changes you've made to them, and that's what these sidecar files do. And you'll be told where and how to hand in the edited JPEGs folder that you uploaded. But that is how to work basically with Adobe Camera Raw.